Have you ever noticed that it seems like you're dating the same type of person over and over again? They may look different, but it's the same person. And it's the wrong person for you, even if you know better. Well, in this episode, I am joined by trauma-informed dating expert Sam Morris, who's gone from working with high-risk domestic abuse perpetrators to breaking free from her own toxic relationship cycles. We are talking about how childhood experiences shape who we're attracted to, and why chaos can sometimes feel like chemistry, and what it really takes to stop repeating the same painful patterns. Plus, Sam shares advice on how to finally attract lasting, healthy connections. You are in for a conversation packed with no-nonsense advice, insights into the psychology of attraction, and practical tips for anyone ready to stop repeating old patterns and cultivate the love they desire. So if you're tired of unhealthy relationships, or you're just wondering how to start fresh, this episode is your guide to shifting your story once and for all. And it starts now. Welcome to Shift or Get Off the Pot, the podcast that helps you get out of your head and into action so you can make your dreams your reality. Let's get to it. Welcome to this episode. My guest today is a straight talker with a no BS approach to human connection and healthy relationships. She has worked the front lines as a probation officer for some of the UK's most high-risk domestic abuse perpetrators. And she has experienced witnessing abuse in her own life and surviving toxic relationships. Now, she is a leading voice in trauma-informed, empowered dating, and she helps hundreds of singles recognize red flags and break the cycle of unhealthy relationships. She offers deep insight and guidance to help people attract the lasting connections that they truly desire. Welcome to the show, Sam Morris.
Hi.
I am so glad to have you here because I think healthy relationships, human connection, love, true unconditional love is something that just about everybody wants in life. Yeah. And so I love that this is the work that you're doing. I would love to start by going back to your beginning, because I mentioned that you witnessed abuse and that you survived toxic relationships. So can you take us back through that time period and what that was like in your life?
So my parents, my biological mother and father, my father was abusive to my mum. My memories of that are kind of hazy in, people talk about abuse and they talk about violence. My memories of violence aren't kind of witnessing it. They are more of my brother coming into my bedroom and like singing to me so I didn't hear as a small child. He knew what was going on. He was there to protect me. But there were other elements that you saw. There was the control of, my mum always kind of being on edge. And then the aftermath of the reason that they actually broke up, the reason that she managed to get free was because he went to prison. And she was free. But it didn't really end there, because when he came out, there was, I remember it being not right, but obviously I was a child, so I didn't really understand what wasn't right. But, you know, your dad standing at the end of the street watching the house is a little bit weird. Why is he not coming in? As a child, you're like, what's going on here? Obviously now I know what was happening and what he was doing, but you know, he would show up randomly for no reason and see if people are in the house. You know, constantly like accuse my mom, and this was like years and years later. And I still remember. No, I don't actually have any contact with my biological father anymore. But when my mum got with my stepdad, I would go off to my biological dad's at the weekend, and he would say things like, they were always having an affair. I'm not actually your biological dad. He is. And so I would go off for the weekend with my biological dad, you know, feeling really happy in my house, you know, thinking that my stepdad was great because he, you know, he's great. And then I would come back on a Sunday absolutely hating him because of the things that were like drilled into me. And as a kid, it's hard to understand that is manipulation.
Yeah, definitely manipulation. How old were you at the time?
8, 7 or 8. It's, really little, not, you know, not like 14. But I think that was the start of all of my relationships with men. Because every person other than my husband that I am married to now, every single one of them, their traits were very, very similar to my biological father.
Well, you tend to mimic what you witness, right? And especially as a child, even though you may not like it, you don't want it, but it's part of that programming. It's part of that subconscious programming. Question for you about your mom and moving on and marrying someone else. Was that individual kind to her? Did she repeat that pattern of attracting somebody that was abusive, or did she break it, and did she have to go through something like programs and such in order to break that cycle?
I think she did a lot of healing, and very much like my story, she was not ever expecting to get into another relationship. She was like, I'm done. This, you know, I'm just dedicating my life to my kids, and I'm going to go back to college and get a career. And then my dad, the man that I call my dad, because he is the person that was there for every single part of my life, he just kind of appeared in her life. And she kind of really fought against it because she was just like, you know, I don't need anyone. And he was constantly a safe space for her. And they're still together now. It's 20 something years.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, the cycle was changed, and he was the best thing that we ever could have asked for.
So do you think for you, because you know, you're on one hand, you've got a biological father where you've witnessed at a young age, and let's remember that you're very impressionable, right, at a young age, and those are the things that go into your subconscious mind. Those are the things that become patterns that you tend to repeat, whether or not you want to. Even though your mom now has moved on and has a much healthier relationship, did it take you some time did you just have to go through those toxic relationships until you finally said, whoa, wait, what am I doing?
I had no idea. Genuinely was always like, I don't want to be with anyone that's like my biological father. What actually happened was when I started to retrain and to be a probation officer, I started learning stuff about human behaviour, and we got to the section where, you know, as a group, we started learning about healthy relationships. And I sat there and I was like, oh, I'm not in one. Up until that point, I genuinely had no idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a fresh pair of eyes or being in a different environment where you can start to see that. Was it verbal abuse, physical abuse?
It was. It's hard because there's different like variations, and obviously I've been with different people. All of them at one point. So, but the general, like the consistent one was controlling behavior and just making me feel like I'm not good enough, I'm a lesser person, I can't speak up for myself.
A whole self-worth thing.
Yeah.
Did you have a deep faith at the time? Did you feel like, okay, I've got some place where I can maybe find an out, or I know that, let's say, God has my back?
So I grew up Catholic, and my mum wasn't actually Catholic. She It's probably bad to say, but we grew up in a what people call a disadvantaged area now. So it was an area where people didn't have any money, and the best school in the area was a Catholic school. So she had us baptized simply so that we could go to that school. But that obviously meant if you do have to go to church. And then my mum converted because of the fact that she was at church all the time with us, and she liked what was said, and she liked the priest, and she liked the kind of the community of it. So I grew up going through Catholic schools. We learnt at school religious education was compulsory. Did my Holy Communion, and I think a lot of that kind of fit into why I kind of stayed, certainly with my first husband, for so long, because it was put kind of into us that families stay together. We were the only, at the time, family that had split up parents within the school. And so that always kind of played in my head, like all the mums and dads were together, everyone knew that. And my mum was the single parent, the bad one, because at that time, and schools are slightly different now, but it was only Catholic children that went to Catholic schools. So
I grew
yeah,
up in a Catholic family and went to Catholic school too for many, many years. And then my parents decided it just probably wasn't the best place anymore.
yeah,
For various reasons I won't get into.
yeah,
It became, I think for us, somewhat, I don't want to use, well, probably the word would be judgmental, because I think like what you're saying right there is that everybody is together. The families stay together no matter what. And so a lot of times we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but you just brush it aside and say it's okay. So it sounds like that's something you did. Like, I'm just going to stay here no matter what, no matter how poorly he treats me, because this is what I'm supposed to do.
yeah. Well, because I had my first child at 19, which obviously goes, I wasn't married, very much goes against what the Bible tells you that you should do. And I was told, she was a child of sin. She was baptized very quickly for that reason. And it was kind of like shame, because the confusing thing is that at that time in my life, I was going through a lot of struggles, and she saved me. So I was at college and I was drinking a lot, a lot, way more than I should have been drinking. And then I found out I was pregnant with her, and it was like, oh, I can't do these things. Like, I can't drink and I can't smoke. And so for me, she saved me, and then other people were very much like, she is a child of sin, and that is very confusing for someone who is, 19. I think it was confusing for anyone anyway, like at any age.
Mm-hmm.
So then we did get married because and if I'm being honest, I pushed that because of the religious side of things, that I didn't want her to be from a family that were looked down upon.
Mm.
And unfortunately, obviously the marriage didn't go very well. Less than a year, actually. And that was when I started to have my kind of sliding of faith, I think, because people were very judgmental about me no longer being with my first husband. People wouldn't sit next to me at church.
Ooh, you're like the girl with the scarlet letter,
Yeah.
the outcast.
Yeah. And it was hard because I grew up with a religion that taught about peace and love and, turn the other cheek. And then having so much kind of judgment, it blew my mind. It still does blow my mind a little bit, actually.
Mm. Actions speak louder than words. And I think that had to be really hard because as a young girl still, 19's young. And to be thinking on one hand, my child, by the grace of God, came into my life and saved me from this destructive path I was on. And at the same time being told by those you respect or an institution that you respect that she's a child of sin, that's harsh. And that would be really hard, I think, to navigate both those worlds, basically. And you have to be a really strong person, I think, to just say, okay, wait a minute, I've got to break away from this because that's an intuitive thing. I know what's really best here.
Yeah. And it was only really when I went through my divorce that I was like, I can't be a part of this anymore. And it wasn't because of God. It was, I don't feel like I want to be around people that think it's okay to be in an unhealthy relationship just because of you having a marriage certificate. And obviously, I'm remarried, and marriage is extremely important. I'm not an advocate for don't get married, because I do think it is important. Unfortunately for me, I married the wrong person the first time round.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's a reason to, kind of dislike someone. But that was kind of how it was received.
Well, it's growing too, though. And there's, you have two choices. You either look at it as a lesson and you grow through it and you take what you can from it, or you don't and you just continue to repeat the patterns. And that's extremely common. It's like, okay, let me jump over here. It might be a different face, different body, but the same situation. It's like narcissists go to somebody that's, again, another narcissist, or a lot of times, and we know this, people that have been in abusive relationships, whether it's verbal or physical, continue to repeat that pattern. And a lot of it comes back to a self-worth thing.
Yeah. And I see that a lot. Obviously, I saw that in myself, but I see that a lot in the work that I do, that we go through the same cycles mainly because we go after what is familiar. So our nervous system thinks that things that are familiar are safe, which is why, like for me, going after men that were similar to my biological father, my nervous system thought those people were safe, so tricked me into thinking I have chemistry with those people. And, it didn't work out very well. But that is what happens. We continue to go through the same cycles until we get to a point where we're like, actually, something needs to change here. And I think it was Einstein that said, the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, it was Einstein that said that, but I think a lot of times that we might hear that, but we don't really see it in our own lives, in all areas of lives, not just like in business, right? But in relationships as well. And I'd love to go back to what you just said about your nervous system tricked you into thinking it was chemistry.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
So when you meet someone for the first time, your body has a reaction to that, and it kind of sends hormones all over the place. Your nervous system thinks that familiarity is safe, so will send like a trigger into your body where you think it is, oh, I'm attracted to this person, I've got chemistry with this person. Actually, what it is anxiety. But we don't realize that because it's very like the kind of the body reaction to anxiety and the body reaction to attraction is pretty much the same. It's kind of, oh, my heart's beating fast and, I feel kind of on a bit of a high, and you don't see things that clearly. And it's just kind of until you get to a point of being able to know your own worth and what you actually want, you will still keep getting tricked into the, which one is it? Does that make sense?
It does, but how do you know then that it's chemistry and that it is a healthy relationship? Is it that because by the time you're entering that, you feel more like a whole, independent, healthy individual?
Yeah. So I always say to people, you need to know what you want and like what your non-negotiables are and whether someone fits with that, because you can connect with a lot of different people, but they might not be anywhere near suitable for you in any way. Until you know who you are and what you want out of life, then that chemistry kind of means nothing, because they might not be right for you, even if you've got a feeling. It's great to have feelings, and it's kind of, a lot of people will say the foundation of a relationship is having that chemistry, but the chemistry ends. Like, when we start a new relationship, we get a dopamine hit. And that dopamine hit can last around 18 months, which is why people call this, the honeymoon phase. We are literally getting high on that relationship. And anyone that, that has ever drank alcohol or used any drugs will know that people don't make good decisions when they're high. After that dopamine hit has gone, you still need to have a relationship. So there needs to be a foundation beforehand, before you start getting the hit from the chemistry and all of that. You need to know if you're actually compatible, because if not, after 18 months, it's not going to be that great of a relationship.
Okay, so let's talk about the foundation then, and building that foundation. What does that look like?
Whatever you want it to look like.
So you're not adapting like a chameleon to just please the other person or to keep that dopamine hit going.
No.
And not losing yourself. Like, I think that's what it really is. You're not losing yourself or giving up who you are and what you said earlier, not your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
First, you have to know what those are.
Yeah.
And be confident in your own self.
Yeah. And I think there are, like, I will always say to my clients, there are stuff that you can be negotiable about. So some people will say, I want to be with someone and it's specific about looks. They have to have brown hair because everyone in my family has brown hair, and we want to at some point reproduce, and I want to have a brown haired baby, or whatever specifics like that. That I would say is a negotiable. It's not set in stone. But having someone that respects you, and when you talk to them, they say, okay, I'm listening. I don't think that's a negotiable. You either have someone that respects you or not, and if they don't respect you, they're not worth your time.
Right. 100%. I get that. So when you talk about people feeling like they have this intense chemistry with somebody, and they have this, what you say, a dopamine hit lasting maybe 18 months, in order for that to continue and to know that this is your person, there's got to be that mutual respect. Is that what you're saying? And there's got to be some commonalities, things that you enjoy doing together.
Yeah. And you don't have to be the same person. My husband likes golf. I do not like golf. But yeah, there is a difference. There has to be kind of the basics of what you want from life. So if you are a very, I don't know, you want to own a nice house and you're very ambitious and you want to move up in your career, who you're speaking to, who you're chatting with, who you're dating, do they fit with that? Do they want the same life? Stuff like if you want to travel a lot, is this person, they don't even have a passport? Do they want to have a passport? Like, they might just not have a passport and there might be reasons for it. But if they're like, I never want to leave this country, then you need to kind of be like, is this what I want? Am I going to have to dim part of who I am to fit in with them? And I think that people make kind of a mistake when they first start dating people. They will flower it up so that, they don't say exactly what they want. And then you start to like someone, and then it's really hard to kind of back away when you realise actually they don't fit with what I want. So I always say to people, be very upfront on a first date, because not about everything, but there are certain things. So on my first date with my husband, I said to him, I will not have any more children and I will not get married again. Obviously that did change because things can change, but it was my decision for that. It wasn't like a manipulation thing. And I said to him, if that is what you want out of life, then there's no point in going any further. And obviously he was like, that's fine. If he wasn't, then that would have been fine too. And I wouldn't have got in too deep.
Mm-hmm.
And then ended up either having to minimize what I want or be disappointed.
I think both those points are huge points. Minimizing what you want or being disappointed, because in what I have witnessed is that those two things cause the deepest problems in relationships, because you've given up who you are and then you get pissed off and angry at the other person when really it's you because you have given that up.
Yeah.
Or you become so disappointed in the other person and who they are, and it's not their fault. And then trying to change them, and you can never change anybody. But then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to change them so that now they fit into the mold of what I truly want.
Yeah. And I said to one of my clients the other day, actually, she was sending me screenshots of messages, and I just said to her, does this man fit with what you want in life based on what he has said? And she said, well, Sam, you tell me. And I was like, I don't need to tell you. You want commitment, and he can't even show up for a date. So, does that fit?
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah. And I didn't need to tell her the answer, because she came to that conclusion herself, that already he doesn't fit with the lifestyle that she wants.
Why do you think people, though, stay in a relationship for so long or hang on to something that they know might not be ideal, and yet they just keep trying?
It's much harder to leave a relationship than it is to stay. Even if that relationship is abusive. Or the steps to leave a relationship, it is hard. I'm not going to try and make it out like it's so easy to leave, regardless of what the situation is. But it's just the same as, people that are unhappy with being overweight. Why don't they continue to be overweight? The knowledge is out there. What they need to do, they go exercise, they eat some good food, but they don't. People stay stuck in jobs that they hate. They wake up in the morning and they're like, I really don't want to go to work today. But they stay there for 20 years because making changes is harder than staying the same.
Because it's a familiar pattern that's just deeply ingrained in us in our subconscious programming?
Yes, and you have to actually do actions to make changes. Whereas if you stay the same, you know what the outcome's going to be. If you're staying in a relationship, you know you're unhappy, you already know that. You already know that it's, probably not the best thing for you, but you know it. Going out and being like, I'm going to be single again, is very, very scary to a lot of people. Going into the unknown, it's hard.
It's
So,
like, oh, I have to start all over again.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have to go find the person. I have to get back out there, put myself back out there. I get that. That's tough. It's like, I don't want to have to go back out and do that. But then on the other side of that, it can be quite different. So, how do you get people then who have maybe either stayed in a relationship that has not been great for them and are either considering leaving or are now trying to rebuild their own self-esteem, confidence to start dating or developing a healthy relationship? How do you approach people or help people approach those situations?
It starts with healing. So even if people are still in a relationship, the process of leaving a relationship, you do have to go through healing as well to be able to get to a place where you're strong enough to be like, I'm done. But I always start people off on self-love. That is the foundation of any healing process, because if you don't love yourself, then you will never know what you want. You will never know whether someone is being unacceptable to you, because you don't love yourself enough to know it. So that is kind of the place where I start. And a lot of people will talk about self-love and they talk about journaling. I hate journaling just because I have a very short attention span. But I know it works for some people. I will always say, go and do something that you are like confident in doing or that you enjoy doing as a first step into loving yourself. So if you really enjoy going and playing tennis and it gives you that, I'm good at this, I know that I'm good at this. If you're really good at, simple things, I'm good at making a cup of tea. And I know that doesn't seem massive, but when you're trying to make changes, it is really about the tiny things. And those tiny things then build onto bigger things. people that, don't have a lot of confidence are not going to go from I've got no confidence to standing on stage. And it's the same if you have no love for yourself, if you don't think you're worthy, don't think you're good enough, the following day you're not going to all of a sudden think, oh yeah, I'm the best. Because it's taken a while for you to get to that place. So it's the little things. So yeah, little confidence boosts of things that you're already good at, not, today I'm going to go and do something randomly new, because that will send you anxiety into a bit of overdrive and probably you'll never do it anyway.
Yeah, you'll keep pushing it off and pushing it off. So it's really being kind to yourself and starting to recognize the things that you are good at and then building on those.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you mentioned early on, and it was more just the word that your biological dad had said about your parents, your mom and your stepdad and the relationship. And he was saying, you said that he used the word affair. They're just having an affair. It's not real and such. Why do you think people have affairs?
There's lots of reasons that people have affairs. But the main ones are normally that they are unhappy somewhere in their life. It doesn't even actually have to be with the person that they're in a relationship with. I've seen a lot of people have affairs just because they have a lack of self-esteem. And this new person makes them feel good about themselves. There are people that are in kind of long-term relationships and things have gradually got worse and worse and worse, and people want a connection because then they don't have that connection anymore. And a lot of it is around kind of actually grieving for the partner that they have because they don't have that connection. And then there are some people that just I think the saying is have their cake and eat it too. Where, they actually don't want to be committed, or they do. They want to have their person who is their commitment, but they also want to be with other people. But they don't want their person to be with other people.
Oh, interesting. So not like an open relationship.
Yeah, not like an open relationship, because obviously that people can do that as long as everyone is, happy about it. Choice is yours.
I don't know. That seems kind of strange to me.
Well, I know people that are in one main relationship and then they are with other people. Both of them are with other people, and they're both happy. That is, they went into it knowing that's what they wanted to do. That's fine if everyone gives consent to that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, that's a lot to juggle. Okay, so in closing, if someone is out there that is, I hate to use the word desperate, but that's what comes to mind, that is truly desiring a great, healthy, unconditional, loving relationship, marriage, and they believe strongly in marriage, but they've been single a long time and have not found that yet. Is there any particular advice that you could give them, that where they need to start? Not like, oh, get on Bumble, get on Hinge. Like, where do they need to start first?
They need to start with themselves. So, are you doing everything that you can do to build up your confidence, to start to learn about who you actually are and what you want from somebody else? I think so many people jump onto dating apps, or they, go to speed dating. That's making a comeback, speed dating is. And I saw a singles dance thing that's happening nowadays, where you, like the old school dances, there's a company that's created this where all these single people can just go to a dance and then they dance with someone and they might like them. But that's all great if you're in a position to say, this person isn't for me because absolutely they have this trait, or they work overseas and I don't want someone that works overseas. It has to start with you, and it has to start with who you're attracted to. So many people focus on, why do I keep attracting these toxic relationships, these people that don't want to commit, or these people that cheat? And the question that you should be asking is, why am I attracted to these people? What do they give off to me that makes me feel safe, which is why I go for them? And that is really where kind of the healing comes in. And however people choose to do it, it's up to them. There's lots of different ways, but I would always start with yourself, because unless you love yourself, you're not going to find that true love anyway, because the true love, it's you.
And then you radiate that, and then you're starting to attract that kind of energy back to yourself.
Yeah. And I've seen it happen time and time again. So, my husband literally walked into my life. I did not want a relationship. I was happy with myself. But like one of my clients recently, she said, Sam, actually, she was afraid to tell me because she thought that I would think it was too soon, that this person walked into her life and he is the complete opposite to every other person she's ever dated. And he's perfect for her, not perfect for everyone. And the more I hear about him, I'm like, oh, this is great. But she wasn't looking for that. But she had built herself up so much that she knows what she wants, and she knows how absolutely fantastic she is. And then he just came into her life.
And that's the magic, because it is energetic. And that's when you start to attract, I think, that chemistry that can last.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've started with the solid foundation of your own self.
Yeah.
I love that you flipped that question from, why do I keep attracting these people that are not good for me, that are toxic, that are cheaters, or whatever it may be, to what am I getting out of the relationship or the individuals that cheat or that are toxic?
Yeah. Because people always focus on types, like you hear, I know obviously Love Island has been on in the US, hasn't it? And it's been on here as well, where it's like, I have a type, my type is, and they talk about physical things that they are attracted to. And no one ever talks about, oh, I have a type of person that likes to cheat on people.
True.
But it is a type. And there is, a connection there. Something about those types of people make you feel safe. And that's the thing that needs to be addressed.
Because it's familiar, and the familiar is the thing that makes our mind tricks us into saying, oh, it's safe. Only because it's known. It's a known pattern of behavior. And either we've experienced it or we've witnessed it.
Yeah. And new things are scary. All new things are scary. If you go to a new job, you do feel a bit scared. You can be the most confident person in the world, but you still feel a bit scared because it's a new thing. And that is the same. And I find a lot of people that I speak to will say that they meet someone that is perfectly nice, but they say nice in like a bad way because they haven't had this instant chemistry. Or they'll say stuff like, I think they're boring, because they don't want to go out on nights out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and come home at 6 a.m. But actually that person doesn't want that life either. And that's where it comes in, because the new things are scary to us, so they appear boring or nice and not exciting.
Which could actually be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Sam, thank you for this. I love this conversation. I think it's fascinating, and I love the work that you are doing with people to help them, not only recognize the red flags, but really to break the cycle of attracting or living with these unhealthy relationships. Because, listen, I think we all know people that have a relationship that we envy, that we look at and say, oh my gosh, yeah, there's highs and ups and downs and all that kind of thing. But you can look at them and say, they are truly in love. And like you said, to your point, it goes back to they know who they are and they're so comfortable in who they are, and that there's that mutual respect because they respect their own selves.
Yeah. And I think when people get to a point where they're like, if this person isn't who I think they are and they leave, that's their problem. Yes, I'll be sad, but that's a them problem. When you get to that point, life just becomes amazing.
Yeah. It's like a sense of freedom, I think.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, that's when you're not looking, and that's when you attract into your life the person that you're meant to be with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. How can people get a hold of you?
So you can find me on Instagram at the Sam Morris C. And yeah, and everything's on there. So I'll just give you one link because...
Well, and we will link information down below in the show notes as well so that people can reach out to you. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely love the conversation. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please consider leaving a rating and hit that subscribe button. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it with them. I'll be back again next week with another episode of Shift or Get Off the Pot.